There is a quiet tiredness that does not come from the body. It comes from the mind, a feeling of always moving, from one thought to another, from one worry to the next. And perhaps you have been carrying this for longer than you realize. And even in moments of stillness, something inside continues to search. Perhaps you have felt this too, a sense that no matter how much you try, the mind does not fully rest. And so we begin to look for something that can calm us, something that can hold us when everything feels unsettled. Sometimes we turn to sacred words. We repeat them softly, quietly, hoping that within the sound there is something that can help. And for a moment, it feels as if something begins to shift, but slowly, a question appears. What is it that truly brings this stillness? Is it the sound, or something deeper within us? And perhaps we do not need to answer this question right away. We can simply pause, gently bringing attention to the breath, breathing in, breathing out. There is nothing you need to fix, nothing you need to become, just this moment, just this breath. And from this quiet place, we begin to listen. In the great assembly, everything is quiet, not empty, but still, as if each presence there is listening, not only with the ears, but with something deeper. And perhaps you can feel this stillness too. And in that stillness, Brahma King slowly rises. There is no urgency in his movement, only a quiet sincerity. He joins his palms, and when he speaks, his voice is gentle, as if what he has just seen has already touched his heart. Today, we have received something rare. He does not speak to explain, he speaks to acknowledge, a recognition that something has been understood, not by thinking, but by seeing. And from that place, a vow naturally appears, to remember, to hold, to not let this understanding fade. And perhaps you have felt a moment like this, when something becomes clear, and you know you do not want to lose it again. Then Avalokiteshvara continues, not with instruction, but with a direction. If one wishes to walk this path, something must begin within, not with sound, but with the heart. A quiet intention begins to form, not only to ease one's own suffering, but to open toward all beings. And you may notice, when the heart is closed, everything feels heavy. But when something softens, even a single breath feels different. The sutra speaks of preparation, a quiet place, a clean space, a body at ease, perhaps a lamp, a trace of fragrance, a few simple offerings. But gently, you may begin to notice something. These are not only outer forms. They reflect something within, a mind that is no longer scattered, a presence that is no longer divided. And slowly, attention begins to return, not by force, not by control, but by noticing. Again and again, the mind comes back to one place, and perhaps you can feel this movement. The movement softens, the noise fades, the breath becomes quiet. And in that stillness, the mantra is no longer just sound. It begins to move through awareness, like something flowing gently through a quiet lake. There is no effort, no trying to reach anywhere, only a steady presence holding everything together. The sutra speaks of beings who come to support this practice, of light, of presence, of unseen companionship. And perhaps we can listen in another way. Not as something outside, but as something that appears when the mind is no longer disturbed. A quiet steadiness. A sense that you are not falling apart with every thought. And as these words move gently through the assembly, a question begins to open. Are these teachings pointing to something beyond, or are they revealing something that has always been here, waiting to be seen? And we do not need to answer right away. We can simply stay and continue to listen. If we listen a little more closely, you may begin to notice something. The sutra speaks in many forms, of practice, of protection, of transformation. But beneath these words, there is something quieter, not something to believe, but something to see, a shift in the way the mind moves. And slowly, something begins to appear again and again, a softening of the heart and a gathering of attention. You may notice this. When the heart is tight, the mind does not rest, even when nothing is wrong. And when the mind is scattered, even gentleness feels far away. Imagine a quiet lake, hidden among mountains. When the wind rises, the surface breaks into movement. Nothing can be seen clearly, but when the wind softens, the water becomes still, and without effort, the sky appears within it. And perhaps the mind is not so different. And in this moment, just this. Most of the time, the mind does not stay, even when you want it to. It moves, from one thought to another, from one feeling to the next, and somewhere in that movement, the present moment is lost. You may have felt this. Even in silence, something continues to stir, a restlessness that does not fully leave. And so, the practice is not about forcing the mind to be still. It is simply a returning, again and again, to one place. Not perfectly, not completely, just gently. And in that returning, something begins to settle. But there is something more. A mind that is steady, but not open, can still feel separate. This is why the heart must soften, and when compassion begins to appear, you may notice a change. Not dramatic, not sudden, but quiet, a loosening, a space that was not there before. It is like lighting a candle in a dark room. The darkness does not resist. It does not argue. It simply fades as light appears. Compassion does not remove what is there. It allows it to be seen. And in that seeing, something begins to dissolve. The sutra speaks of healing, but perhaps you may not notice it at first, not because nothing changes, but because the change is so quiet. Attention softens, a breath deepens, a reaction no longer rises as quickly, and slowly you begin to see that clarity was never lost. It was only covered. And sometimes, what the sutra calls disturbance appears in very familiar ways. A thought that returns again and again. A pull you did not choose. A pattern that repeats, even when you see it clearly. And in those moments, it can feel as if something else is in control. It is like a storm moving across the sky, wind, cloud, movement, but the sky itself has not changed, and when the storm passes, the vastness remains. In the same way, when awareness becomes steady and the heart no longer resists, the movement begins to quiet, and what has always been there appears again. And perhaps this is what protection means. Not something that comes from outside, but something that appears when the mind is no longer shaken. Like a mountain, winds may pass, clouds may move, but something remains. And in that stillness, you may begin to notice something, not new, not created, but always present. A quiet awareness, unmoving, untroubled, and gently alive. And in that moment, nothing needs to be found. Nothing needs to be changed. There is only this. And for a moment, nothing has ever been missing. And perhaps you may begin to notice this, not in a distant teaching, but in the middle of your own day. The same movement of the mind, the same restlessness, the same quiet search for something to hold on to. In daily life, it may appear very simply. Thinking that does not stop. A moment that should be quiet, yet something continues to move. Planning, remembering, worrying. Even when nothing is wrong, the mind does not rest. You may have felt this. And slowly, this movement becomes something else. A tightness you cannot explain, a weight that has no name, a breath that never quite reaches the bottom, not strong enough to be called pain, but never fully at ease. And because it feels so familiar, we rarely question it. And when this feeling appears, the mind begins to move away. Distraction, scrolling, thinking about something else, trying not to feel what is already here. And for a moment, you feel a little better, but only for a moment. And then, the mind returns again. And perhaps, this is where the practice begins. Not by escaping, not by fixing, but by noticing. Gently, without resistance. You may begin to see what is happening inside you without turning away. And in that moment, you may return, not to an idea, not to a concept, but to something very simple. The breath. Breathing in, breathing out, and for a moment, nothing else is needed. And for a moment, nothing is missing. And perhaps this is not something new, but something that has always been here. A mind that gathers, a heart that softens, an awareness that begins to see clearly. And slowly, the mantra is no longer something you repeat. It becomes something you live, in the way you pause, in the way you respond, in the way you meet each moment. Gently, with awareness. And perhaps you may begin to notice this. Nothing dramatic has happened. Nothing has been added. And yet, something feels different. A little more space, a little more ease, a little less being pulled. And in this moment, there is nowhere you need to go. No one you need to become. Only this breath. Breathing in, breathing out, and quietly, You are already here. If you're listening now, you may gently begin to slow down. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to become. Just this moment. And perhaps you can notice the body as it is. The quiet presence of being here. Breathing in, breathing out. Not changing anything, just noticing the natural rhythm of the breath. And if thoughts appear, you may see them like clouds moving across a wide sky. Nothing to hold, nothing to push away. And gently, attention returns. And if at any moment the mind begins to wander, you may notice it softly, without judgment. The mind has moved. And in that moment, something simple happens. Not control, not effort, just a quiet return. And perhaps attention comes back to the breath or to a gentle point within. And if it feels natural, a sound may appear, very soft, almost silent, not spoken aloud, but felt within the heart. And perhaps attention comes back to the breath or to a gentle point within. And if it feels natural, a sound may appear, very soft, almost silent, not spoken aloud, but felt within the heart. Namo Ratna Trayaya, Namo Arya Avalokiteshvaraya, Bodhisattvaya Mahasattvaya, Mahakarunikaya. Each syllable, not repeated, but received, like a soft echo, moving through stillness. Let the sound be very gentle, not formed, not controlled, just present, and perhaps there is no need to hold the mantra, no need to continue it. It may come, it may fade, and awareness remains. Each time the mind wanders, there is no need to begin again. Nothing is lost, and without effort, attention returns to the breath or to this quiet presence, again and again, as naturally as breathing. And as you remain, you may begin to feel something, not strong, not overwhelming, just a quiet warmth within the heart, a softness that was always there, not created, not forced, just gently revealed. And this softness may begin to open, a simple sense of kindness, not directed, not controlled, just present, like a small candle glowing quietly in the dark, not trying to remove the darkness, just being light. And perhaps you begin to notice you do not need to become peaceful. Peace is already here. When the mind is no longer chasing, when it gently returns again and again to what is already present. And in this quiet moment, the mantra is no longer just sound. It becomes a living presence, a gentle awareness, a quiet compassion moving with each breath. Not separate, not something you do, but something you are. And slowly, even the sense of practicing begins to fade. No need to focus. No need to hold anything. The breath continues. The body rests, and awareness remains. And in this moment, nothing needs to be held. Nothing needs to remain. And yet, this presence does not leave. And for a moment, there is only stillness.